The Joe Rogan Experience.
Go dig up those old tweets and want to find out things that you said, or and this, it is similar to that feeling of watching a public execution.
Right.
Like, hang him. And
everyone's so excited for it to happen. Like, they pile on.
Yeah.
They'll go on your Instagram, leave tons and tons of like terrible comments or
you're getting canceled.
Yeah. And it's like, okay, good. Did you really feel, does that make your day better?
What are you making a face for, Jamie? What's going on?
I just found something dark as you guys were talking about this.
About hamsters eating their
The
kids?
last public hanging, there was like a huge media event. Like 20,000 people traveled to Kentucky to watch it happen. There's
to see a white woman hang a black man.
She was the local sheriff, and she didn't go through with it because of probably the attention. So some eager volunteers did it. And while this was all going on, there was like a media circus. People were eating hot dogs, drinking lemonade, camping out overnight.
Oh, my God.
It was a huge event, and it was 1936.
Oh, boy.
What did they say he did?
That's what I was looking for before.
It said up there, you scroll up, it said he was wanted for the rape of a 70-year-old woman. That was the woman. Go scroll up, a little higher, a little higher, a little higher.
I think he was popping over. There it is, okay.
Yeah, see, Bethesda had confessed to the rape and murder of a 70-year-old Lishy Edwards, a capital crime under Kentucky law, and one that fell upon the local sheriff to punish. I could appoint the deputy sheriff to deputize any citizen to spring the trap, Thompson told reporters as she stoically resigned herself to the role. But to do that would inflict an unpleasant job upon someone else. So she decided this disgusting job, she was going to do it, and then decided not to.
Yeah, and she did.
the first female executioner.
Wow.
And then she couldn't do it. Not a good look for women.
The problem with those, anything post slavery, post 1865, there were so many crimes that people were arrested for that were nothing, where men were being forced to do labor. So what would happen was, because of the fact that slavery was now abolished, these men would be loitering, right?
Mm-hmm.
People didn't know what the fuck to do. Like, imagine you're a slave your whole life. You grew up a slave, and then all of a sudden you're free. You're like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
What do I do? Well, they would just arrest you, and then make you do hard labor in jail for nothing.
Yeah, they essentially figured out how to make slavery legal again.
And they did it for decades.
Yeah. They still sort of do it today.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, when you make a guy work in jail for $1 a day, whatever the fuck they pay, how is that not slavery?
Yeah.
Are you giving him gruel? What are you giving him? White bread and fucking shitty meatloaf? What are you feeding him?
It's one of those things where I'm like, we get so mad at like so a lot of the current stuff that's happening with like what we're supposed to be saying, like the right pronouns to use, all that stuff. And it's like, yeah, okay, I'll try to say the right pronouns. That's a pretty easy fix. How about we go back and like kind of correct some of this 400 years of slavery and oppression that we did for black people? Oh, is it because it's harder to do?
Yeah,
like, it's not a solvable problem.
They, them is easy.
Yeah.
Captain Pink Hair.
Yeah.
I think the real problem is these communities, like, they've never recovered. Like places like Baltimore, there's certain communities that have been the same forever. And Southside Chicago is another one, right? There's these communities that they're fucked with, riddled with crime and drugs, and so many people in and out of jail, and this constant recidivism rate.
Yeah.
You grow up there, you're in that system. Like, they would have to.
You're maybe in a terrible public school.
Oh,
like,
for sure.
You have to work
gangs
as early
everywhere,
as you can.
Drugs. I mean, the people that are heroes in your neighborhood are drug dealers. So how do you fix that? Boy. There's no effort put to that in terms of like a systematic national effort on the federal level to step in and do something to these communities, and do it on a scale that we do in other countries when we bomb the fuck out of them.
Right. And also just admit that we're racist. Like, when after apartheid happened, they had like a day, there was a couple days of reckoning or whatever it was called, where everyone went up and they were like, these are the things I did.
Really?
Yeah. These are the things I did. These are like the laws I broke. And it was like this like terrible, like cathartic, admit to your racism. And then let's try to heal after that. And then we're all just like, no, we're not racist. And I'm like, we're pretty racist.
Well, some people are racist, but what's racist is that these communities suffered under a system that was completely imposed because of racism.
Right.
In the 1800s, and then in the early 1900s, and during the civil rights era. This is all, I mean, that there's no denying that it's the echoes of at least ancient racism that needs to be somehow or another addressed. But I mean, how do you address that? Like some people want reparations, and like the idea of it makes sense, right? Clearly someone profited, right? There are to this day, there's corporations, you can trace their money back to slavery.
Right.
Right? Well, it seems like they should pay something.
Yeah, they should pay a little bit.
How did you guys get rich? Like, if you look at a giant plantation and they used to have slaves and they profited off those slaves, and that plantation is somehow or another still in operation today.
Right.
I don't know if that's the case, but if it was, like, where'd you get your money?
Yeah.
What'd you do? Like,
and then how do you go back giving it back to people?
How do you give it back? Who do you give it back to?
Yeah.
Do you give it back to the ancestors of the people who were slaves? And the problem is, like, if you give people money, I don't think it fixes the problem. I think to fix the problem, there has to be some sort of, I mean, we've beaten this horse to death on the show, unfortunately. And I don't have any solutions. No one ever has one. I don't know what it would be, but I think there has to be some way to clean up communities, and I don't know how you would do that. I mean, I have no idea. How do you go to a place like Southside Chicago has more murders than Afghanistan? I mean, it's bad there. It's fucking bad. Am I making that up? I'm not making that up. I don't think so.
I think you're right. But that's the thing. It's like this is such like an unsolvable problem, and the stuff that people go after on Twitter, like the social justice stuff, is so easy to do. Yeah. And it's like, yeah, of course that's what you're going to like. You can have a hard day, whatever shitty job you have, and then you come home, you see someone got mad at something or did something wrong, and you get to be like, yeah, this person, you're canceled. Yeah. And then you close your computer or whatever, or you watch people retweet it, and you're like, I did do something today.
I'm an activist.
Yeah, I'm an
online activist.